Imagine a quiet pizzeria in Cherry Hill, New Jersey in the late 1970s. The smell of dough and tomato sauce fills the air. Families laugh over slices, and the owner, a sharp-dressed man named Rosario Gambino, greets customers with a calm smile. He seems like a successful immigrant businessman, but beneath this ordinary surface ran a dark river of billions of dollars and enough heroin to addict thousands. This is the true story of how Rosario Sal Gambino used a pizza shop as a front for one of the most lucrative drug trafficking operations in American history, and the strange, twisted path that led from that pizzeria to a bribery scandal involving the president's own brother. Rosario was born in Palermo, Sicily in 1942, into a world where family and bloodlines meant everything. He was part of a vast web of mafia relatives, including a distant cousin named Carlo Gambino, the boss of one of New York's most powerful crime families. In 1962, Rosario and his brothers, John and Joseph, immigrated to the United States, slipping into the country and settling in New Jersey. They were granted permanent residency a few years later and officially became made men in the Gambino family in 1975. While they answered to the New York family, they built their own empire in New Jersey, becoming known as the Cherry Hill Gambinos. To the outside world, Rosario and his brother Joseph were just hardworking pizza entrepreneurs. They ran a chain called Father and Son Pizza, with shops scattered across New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and even as far south as Delaware. Rosario, often called Sal, was a familiar face at his location in Delran, New Jersey. But neighbors noticed something odd. He would show up to his modest pizza shop wearing expensive tailored suits, a flashy presence completely out of place in a world of flour and grease. Government investigators later painted a picture of a man living a double life. On his tax returns, Rosario claimed to make around $20,000 a year, yet he lived in a lavish home with a hefty mortgage, casinoed freely at casinos, and once paid nearly $1,700 in cash just to install decorative fountain lights in his front yard. His own lawyer couldn't even tell the court what his client did for a living. The numbers simply didn't add up, because his real business wasn't pizza, it was heroin. Despite the official mafia code that supposedly banned drug dealing, the Gambino brothers dove headfirst into the narcotics trade. They were key players in a transatlantic smuggling ring connected by blood to powerful mafia clans back in Sicily, the Inzarios, Spatolas, and DiMaggios. This cartel flooded the streets of America with heroin, with an estimated value of $600 million every single year. The pizzeria wasn't just a cover story, it was an operational hub. Authorities later linked Rosario to the infamous Pizza Connection investigation, where it was believed that pizzerias across the country served as safe houses and distribution points for drugs. The Gambino's operation got a massive, albeit chaotic, boost from an unexpected partner, a high-flying Italian banker named Michele Sindona. Sindona, who was entangled with the mafia, controlled the Franklin National Bank, one of the largest in the U.S. When his fraudulent schemes led to the bank's colossal collapse, he found himself facing certain imprisonment. In a bizarre twist in August 1979, John Gambino helped Sindona stage a fake kidnapping. The idea was to hide him away in Sicily for 11 weeks while he tried to blackmail his powerful political friends in Italy, including the Prime Minister, into bailing him out and recovering millions in lost mafia money. Rosario was there at JFK Airport, waiting to greet Sindona upon his supposed release and return to the U.S. The plan failed spectacularly, and Sindona was arrested, but the episode exposed the deep, dangerous connections between the Gambinos, international finance, and political corruption. The walls began to close in during the early 1980s. In Italy, the heroic anti-mafia prosecutor Giovanni Falcone signed an arrest warrant for the Gambino brothers. While they evaded extradition, their luck in America ran out. In 1984, Rosario Gambino was put on trial for narcotics trafficking. This time, there was no escape. He was found guilty of selling heroin to undercover police officers and was handed a devastating sentence: 45 years in a federal prison. He was sent to Terminal Island in Los Angeles, seemingly destined to die behind bars. But Rosario Gambino's story was far from over. While he rotted in prison, his family back home was working on a Hail Mary pass that would bring his name back into the headlines. In the late 1990s, during the final days of President Bill Clinton's administration, a shocking scheme came to light. According to reports, Rosario's children, Anna and Tommaso, had paid $50,000 and a Rolex watch to a company owned by the president's half-brother, Roger Clinton. In exchange, Roger Clinton allegedly promised to use his influence to secure a presidential pardon for the convicted mobster. Roger had previously written letters to the U.S. Parole Commission on Rosario's behalf, and it was later revealed that Gambino's name was actually on a list of candidates being considered for clemency by the White House. The Pardongate scandal, as it became known, was a major embarrassment. Ultimately, President Clinton did not grant Rosario Gambino a pardon, but the incident proved just how far the tentacles of the Gambino family could reach, all the way to the doorstep of the American presidency. After serving 22 years, Rosario was finally released from U.S. prison in 2006, but he didn't walk free. He was immediately transferred to an immigration detention center as the government moved to deport him to Italy, where he was still a wanted man. His lawyers fought the deportation with a brilliant, if ironic, legal argument. They claimed that under Italy's strict 41 bis prison regime, designed to isolate and break mafia inmates, Rosario would face torture and a shortened life expectancy. An immigration judge initially agreed, blocking his deportation under the UN Convention Against Torture. The U.S. government appealed, and the ruling was overturned. On May 23, 2009, Rosario Gambino landed at Rome's airport in a wheelchair, looking frail and aged. The date was heavy with irony. It was the 17th anniversary of the day Judge Giovanni Falcone, the very man who had signed his first arrest warrant decades earlier, was murdered by the mafia. Gambino was taken into custody, beginning a final, confusing chapter of legal battles in his homeland. He was arrested again in a Rome clinic in 2011, only to be acquitted of those specific drug charges and freed in 2014. The saga continued, and in 2019, at the age of 77, he was once again swept up in a coordinated international police raid, proving that for a man like Rosario Gambino, the long arm of the law and the shadows of his past would never truly let him go. From a pizza shop in New Jersey to the corridors of political power in Washington, D.C., and finally back to the land of his birth, Rosario Gambino's life was an epic journey through the dark heart of the American mafia. It was a story not just of crime, but of family, loyalty, and the impossible weight of a legacy written in blood and billions of dollars.